Welcome back, Poe fans. It is another episode of the Review Morgue.
That's
And this
right.
time, we're going to talk about the 1961 Roger Corman, The Pit and The Pendulum. We're
Yes.
going to be swinging. Okay, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I was reverting back to the swinging days. Ha ha. Okay, sorry.
Oh, well, and we'll be in the pit, not in the pit of with olives, the olive pits.
Yeah. Although it probably been more interesting if they had olive pits in this movie, but we won't discuss that just yet.
That's exactly right. So let's go over all the fine details about this film. So
Sounds good.
it is the second film for Roger Corman in Roger Corman's post cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And the producers of this film was again American International Pictures. So because all of the ones Corman did were under them. And of course he was the director.
Mm-hmm.
We have Vincent Price back again, and he
After you check
played
it, direct it. Okay, sorry.
yeah, and he played Don Nicholas Medina.
Yes, Madonna.
And we really don't even have to say anything else about Vincent Price because it's like a mic drop when you say his name.
Yeah. You don't know Miss Vincent Price. We don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but okay.
That's exactly right. And then we had Elizabeth Medina, who was played his wife, or who was his wife, and Barbara Steele played her. And she basically she's one of the like horror female icons of all time. And some of the films she's known for, Black Sunday, Eight and a Half, and Piranha. And then she was also in the 1991 reimagined Dark Shadows, and she played Dr.
Oh,
Julia Hoffman in that. And she was brilliant. I really loved her character.
yeah.
Then we have Charles Leon, who played the
Yeah.
doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Francis Barnard was John Kerr. And he was in A Bucket of Blood, Tales from the Dark Side. And then Anthony Carbone, I'm sorry, yes, was in South Pacific. And so I think, no, I'm sorry. John Kerr was in, nope, I've got it wrong. Anthony Carbone was in South Pacific. No,
Mm-hmm.
it was John Carr. So sorry, my notes are crazy tonight.
Oh yeah. We're like the pendulum. We can't no, yes, no, yes, no.
Yes, and Francis Barnard, that character played by John Kerr, was Elizabeth's brother who came to check up on her and found that she had passed away. And
No,
then,
I think he was there because she had passed away. But he had found
yes,
out about it
yes,
like 2 months after the fact.
yes. And then you had Catherine, who was Nicholas's sister
Hmm.
and played by Luana Anders, and she was in Easy Rider. That's probably the best known she movie she was in.
Hmm.
And so that kind of takes care of everybody. And so, yes, the doctor's name was Charles Leon, played by Anthony Carbone. And so that sorry that I had that little bit of hiccup in my notes.
It's a
But
Monday.
yes, it is. And I had forgotten how I wrote that out because it's been a few days.
Yeah.
So, but basically, you had a great cast. I mean, Vincent Price, Barbara Steele, even though her voice was dubbed for this film. I did read that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, because isn't she an English actress?
I'd have to look it up, but I believe she
Yeah.
is. Yes, I'm almost
I'm
positive.
pretty sure she
Correct.
had an accent, and I think that's why she was dubbed,
Yes.
which I thought was rather ironic because the brother and Elizabeth, the wife, were supposedly from England,
Mm-hmm.
and yet he did not have an accent at
Right.
all.
And
No
what?
one, yeah. The only one that was close to having any kind of accent was the doctor, and he had a little bit of a, he tried to throw in a little bit of a French lilt,
Mm-hmm.
and see, which was kind of strange because in the movie, I think his home base was like Paris, but
Think so. Yeah.
Don Medina, this was happening in Spain.
Correct. Which, as we know, the story, Poe's actual story,
Mhm.
was taking place in Spain because it had to do with the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes, which is kind of apropos because the Spanish Inquisition technically started in the mid 1500s and
Hmm.
was ending in like the 1840s.
Right. Yes.
So, which what I think is what spurred Poe to write The Pit and the Pendulum, because in his story, the guy is saved by the French
Hmm.
because they had, you know, stormed the castle or whatever you want to call it, whatever
Right.
Poe's wherever this guy was being held, they had, so rescued him. So
Hmm.
that was kind of cool that Poe made it as a good conclusion to the Spanish Inquisition.
Right. Right.
Unlike the movie, which the movie to me was like stone soup. I'm just going to say it because the story Stone Soup is like you start with you like, oh, we're going to use the Pit and the Pendulum, the story of Poe, and we're going to put it in the bottom of the soup bowl. But
Hmm.
then we're going to throw in anything else that we can find on top of that.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I got. It was like, am I watching The Fall of the House of Usher again? Am I, is this the Black Cat? Is this
That. Yeah.
the cask of Amontillado, because that's what it felt like. It felt like you were running through a reel of Poe's greatest hits
Hmm.
with Vincent Price.
Yes. It. It very much felt very Usher-esque,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because of the brother is coming, like the unnamed narrator in Fall of House of Usher,
Yes.
check on his sister. And even though, like in Fall of House of Usher, the brother and sister are Price and, as Roderick and then Madeline, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not married, but now it's Price and Barbara Steele who are married. And it was like almost Usher in reverse in a
Yeah.
way. And it really it felt like that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And I understand why the playwright put it this way,
Hmm.
because you know as well as I do, the actual Pit and the Pendulum is a very static story because it takes place in one place.
Yeah, it's
There's
very.
not,
Yeah.
there's not varying scenery, there's not different settings. It's all in one spot, and it's more of a psychological of the guy
Yes.
with the pendulum.
Yeah.
Where, as with the movie, they had to create it. It's the 1960s, so they had to make it interesting. They had to make a plot, of course. And
Yes.
so, what better way to do that than to make it a love story or
Yep.
a tragic love story kind
Betrayal.
of thing?
Betrayal and
Yeah, got
all
to
of
put the
those things.
betrayal in there.
Yeah, I
So,
totally agree with you, Jeannie. The Poe's story itself is very psychological, very cerebral,
hmm
and you're just basically hearing the story from this man who is trapped in this pit with rats all around and
Hmm.
this pendulum, and he has no idea if he's going to die or not.
Yes.
And there are other things that come in and all of that, but they do put the pit and the pendulum in the dungeon, but it really doesn't happen until the end of the movie. I mean, we do see the torture chamber earlier than that,
Hmm.
but
And they do allude because that's the one thing they make Vincent Price as if he's the character that's on the pin in the pit. You
yes.
know, that's the one thing they tie in. They try to make it psychological that way.
Hmm.
And because it is like a Roderick revision, but
Yeah.
he does it very well. I mean, it's
Hmm.
Vincent Price.
Absolutely. Yes.
But the one thing that I really thought was great that they used to help kind of push it toward that psychological side was the
Hmm.
use of colors and the
Yes.
use of the method acting,
Hmm.
mostly because it wasn't a lot of dialogue for a while, but it was a lot of method, and you had to pay attention in order to catch what it was.
Yeah.
Uh, because the paintings they made Vincent's character as an artist,
Yes.
which I thought was very smart
Hmm.
because that's one way to bring in the psychological is because you can see with his paintings and everything, it shows his mental uh troubles.
Yes. Hmm.
And that's how they use the colors too.
Yeah.
But I spent the majority of the first half or more of the movie going, where are we going with this? And why haven't I seen a pit or a pendulum yet? Uh, because they do talk about how the castle they're living in is a family castle.
Right.
And they make Vincent Price's father and grandfather were torturers of the Spanish Inquisition
Exactly.
because they show all their toys that they kept in the dungeon that they loved to use.
Hmm.
The I can't think of their names right now, but anyway, things that we know about the stretch, where where they stretch torture one where they wrap you down and they stretch your arms and legs, one going one way, one the other.
Oh yeah. Well, and the bed of nails was down
Yes,
there. They had the Iron Maiden,
yes,
and
that's what I was trying to think of, and I was like, I can't think of any of the names right now.
that's all right.
But it was like, they show how Vincent Price was talking about when he was a child and how he would have to listen to his father tell him about his work as being one of the torturers and how he loved using these, which led into the story of how the betrayal started before Vincent Price. It
Hmm.
actually started with Vincent Price's father and mother
Yes.
and his uncle.
Yes.
It turns out the mother was having an affair with the uncle,
Hmm.
and then the father ended up using his talents to take care of the father and the mother. I mean, the
Exactly.
brother and the mother, brother. Okay. I'm
Well,
getting them
yeah,
right.
and little Don Medina,
Uh huh.
Nicholas, was down in the torture chamber, and his father nor his mother knew he was down there, so he was traumatized.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I think they tried to keep the psychological parts of it.
Yes.
The traumatic, how it caused him to be the way he was and having the fears that he did as he was growing.
Hmm.
So, I mean, in itself, it is an interesting movie,
Yeah.
but
If
it's
you,
more
yeah, if you,
interesting as, I don't know.
well, it's because it's so far removed from
The
Poe's
story.
story,
Yeah.
the original storyline, it I almost want to separate the two. Like
Yeah.
they took the Pit and the Pendulum idea because that in like we talked about before, that was in a whole nother chamber away from the like main torture chamber. It was like
Mhm.
down further into the dungeon. And so I really almost think it has to be two entities where it's, loosely based on. It's not, even an adaptation except for like you
Mhm.
said at the very end. And so when you separate the two, I think I can rate it higher because of that separation. Otherwise, if you ask me to rate it on adapting it from Poe's story, it's not going to be high.
Oh no. No,
Even
no.
though
Nowhere near it.
the acting was stupendous, the settings again, the lighting, everything was done just brilliantly. But you have to separate the two to give both their due.
Yeah, you can't go into this movie thinking that you're going to see Poe's story of the Pit and the Pendulum because
Right.
you don't.
Hmm.
This is, like you're saying, it's so far removed from the story that they just took the premise of the Spanish Inquisition, the Pit and the Pendulum machine itself, and its placement. And
Yeah.
that's kind of all they did to
Yeah.
use from the story.
Yeah, I agree. And blending in some elements from, like we said, Fall of the House of Usher, Cask of
Cask of
Amontillado.
Amontillado. I think, what else did we say that they were in there? They had, I mean, they had a lot of, that's kind of what I did during the whole movie. It was kind of like, oh, that's from that. Oh, that's
Mhm.
from that. Because I
Yeah.
was, it's like you were playing a guessing game or a scavenger hunt of like, where did they pull that from? Or what is that for?
Mhm. Well,
But,
and I will say there was some nice foreshadowing done when they showed the scene where Nicholas, as a child, witnessed what his father did to his mother and his uncle for having the
mhm,
affair. There was definitely some foreshadowing of what was to come for Nicholas himself.
right. Yeah, because I mean, they did play up that you feel sorry for Nicholas throughout the whole movie,
Hmm.
and everybody should because he was like the tortured soul 100%.
Absolutely. And he was pining over his wife's death, so-called death.
Mhm. Yes.
And
And and the sister, that's the one thing that I never could quite grasp because she was what I'd call a throwaway character.
yeah,
There was no need for her in the story whatsoever.
no, they could have done without her. Now they had to
Mhm.
have, the doctor, this is separate from Nicholas's wife and her brother. The
Mhm.
doctor had to be there, and then there was a manservant as well. And
Yeah.
he wasn't in it as much, but the little bit that he was in it was kind of necessary.
Yeah, he was one of those fillers that was needed for the story, but
Hmm.
he wasn't needed as a speaking character. He was just
No,
needed as a background character.
yeah, absolutely.
And I got a little irritated at the set for a couple times because you could definitely tell it was static. Because the way they would walk up one side and then walk down the other, and I'm like, oh, look, we're looking like if we're in a theater. Because you know how in the theaters they have them sit to where you would go up one side, then you would have to switch the other one around, and you just be
Yeah.
coming right back down to the other side of the. So you get
Oh,
that feeling of it wasn't a big setting.
yeah.
Not that it was bad, it was just like, okay.
Well, and the one thing too, so Elizabeth's brother Bernard,
Barnyard. I
Yeah,
kept wanting to
Barnard.
call him Barnyard, but
Yeah,
because they kept Bernard, Barnyard, and I was
right. And
like, what?
his first
Bernard.
name, they never called it him this, but was Francis. But he was just very insistent because he couldn't believe she was dead, and he was very insistent upon,
Wanting to see.
seeing her body.
Hmm.
And that was the one thing that, I mean, I guess, how much do we need to give away, Jeannie, or how much do we need to conceal?
Well, that's the one thing about the story, because if you tell one little bit of it, it kind of starts to unravel the whole story,
Right.
and it can mess up your own scavenger hunt for them in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If, so, I mean, the little bits we can't go into too much specifics. I mean, the things that we've said so far aren't really harming the story itself. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because in
Absolutely.
my honest opinion, you
Well,
can't really harm the story because the story is not really the story.
and I can kind of say this without giving some things away, but there was one plot hole that you and I discussed once they did look at the body in the coffin, or the,
Hmm.
tomb, and they never went back to that to answer
Fix it.
the questions, yes, and fix the plot hole. And I don't know if maybe they just didn't think it was necessary. It wasn't that important based on what happens after that, or did they forget? I mean, I find it hard to believe that Corman would have forgotten something like that. I think it was done on purpose.
Well, what I got from it, like this is the one of the things that we were discussing, that in the story it had where Bernard, Barnyard, whatever, shows up, and it's that he just found out that his sister had died, but she had been dead for like 3 months.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons he wanted to see the body.
Mm-hmm.
And the body that he saw was not in the right decomp.
Right.
So that's one of the things where you start going, wait a minute, that couldn't be her because it's the wrong, that's not the right. And here's what I think that Corman or the writers may have wanting to go towards is with Nicholas's mom,
Okay.
how his mother was killed, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and stuff, because I think that's what they were alluding to, is that the body that was in the casket was his mother's skeleton.
It could have been. That's very
But the
true.
problem that I have with that is because this is where premature burial comes in. That was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the scratch marks on the lid of the coffin.
Right.
So that makes you wonder, okay, then, because not giving away any of the story, I think pretty much everybody can kind of figure out just from those little tidbits kind of where it goes, or
Mm-hmm.
where it was going when we started alluding to him wanting to see the body.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, the plot inconsistencies started for me really right there,
Okay.
because
That kind of makes sense.
it just was too, because the moment they show the body, I'm going, that's not right.
Yeah.
Because even if it's been 3 months, the amount of decomposition would not have been that bad, especially where they were being entombed.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so there was that, and
Yeah.
then like I said, Vincent Price played wonderful with the psychological torture of his background, seeing his mother and brother and uncle murdered by his father, and tortured and murdered, by the way, by his father, and then him growing up, him falling in love, them still living at the house, and him being an artist. That's the one thing that I did love, is because the paintings that he did, they told a story.
Yeah.
So that was another. check mark of Corman using that because the subtleties of that kind of helped make the story better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think too, I'm going to switch gears here and
Hmm.
talk about the difference between the entire movie of being like the brother insisting upon, how could she be dead? Why
Hmm.
didn't anybody notify me and all of that? And then the kind of, they showed basically Elizabeth's character was shown only in flashbacks. And
Right.
flashbacks were always in kind of a different hue or color, which I
Hmm.
really liked to show that difference. And
Yes.
then it was just it showed the spiraling, kind of the spiraling down into the pit of Nicholas, his character, and
Yeah.
just the madness taking over from the loss of his wife for various reasons. And it was like the more he was questioned, the more he had to face anything. It was like some guilt was coming out, some madness was coming out. And I do love that kind of part of the story, because I mean, as you can see, even in the poster behind me, there was a spiral staircase leading down into the pit. And
Hmm.
so I thought that was a great, almost kind of metaphor for the spiraling down of Nicholas's character into the pit.
Yeah. The only thing that I think they kind of lost it for me
Hmm.
was I did like how they built the spiral, how they made it to where he was hearing voices, there were
Right.
things that was happening in her room and stuff like that, uh, that was making it seem that their ghost was hanging around and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was too much in some ways because when he finally reached that precipice and kind of went over,
Yeah.
it's like they had the gradual of getting there until all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to hurry this up because we're running out of time, and they just shoved him over, and so that
Yeah.
kind of lost it for me. I was
Okay.
like, yeah, you were doing really well, and all of a sudden, you know, now he's like this total raving lunatic with no objective of no, no blatant objective of what he's trying to do. Now, he is trying to take out the object of his obsession because he pretty much reverted back to where now he's kind of like the psychological entity of his father
Yes.
because of
Absolutely.
the story and what had happened.
Hmm.
And so when he's not able to follow through with the torture that he wants for the actual object of his effect of his guidance or whatever, not
Right.
guidance, with the object of the outcome, who he's
Yeah.
after. That's what I'm trying
Okay.
to get
Yeah.
to.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
he loses that. So then he ends up taking the brother, Elizabeth's brother, and
Hmm.
putting him as a replacement
Yeah.
because he's not in full faculty of who it is. So he's reverting back to remembering uh, his childhood and what happened with his father, his mother, and his uncle.
Right. Exactly.
So
I
they
mean,
kind of
he's
bring that
gone
into,
completely mad.
yeah. But to me, it was a forced madness at the end that I just didn't appreciate because I was like, really? You wait, you had all this time, but then you wait till the last 9 minutes of the movie and then you like throw it all together. It's like, we're running out of time. We just got to mush it all together.
Well, but see, and for me, it's different because all the things that others did to him to drive him mad, it was like he seriously snapped and just went otherworldly, and he became his father, the like you said, the epitome of his father, the ghost of his
Mhm.
father. And he had to do what his father did, really not necessarily knowing the whole truth behind what had really happened because he
Yeah.
went mad.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, that was pretty much where the story needed to go and where it was
Yeah.
going from the
Oh, yeah.
get-go.
Yeah.
I just felt that it was too rushed, in my opinion, that
Yeah.
it was not a good transition.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, and I'm sorry, the Pit and the Pendulum was just lame in the movie. I mean,
Why do you say that?
well, I say that because they had such the opportunity to make it the center and bring out so much more from it that in the end it just become like a bad Abbott and Costello skit,
Oh,
in
good.
my opinion. I mean, think about it. At the end, you've got these people that are trying to stop the pendulum. And I mean, how difficult is it to pull a lever? But they make it like it's like the Marx Brothers fighting over, you know, a watermelon or the Three Stooges. And I'm going, are you kidding me? Just pull the lever. Now, the sister, I can tell who's trying to stop it or trying to change things. I can understand why she couldn't pull it because she was like the size of a pea.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like they drug it out. And I know what they were doing. They were trying to put emphasis on it to make the story more, because today we got the CGI effects and all that, but back then
Right.
they were trying to put that terror, that fulfillment of, ooh, what's going to happen? Are they going to make it? Are they going to stop it in time? It just was flat to me. That's all I gotta say. It just didn't
Okay.
work.
Okay. Now, see, I thought during that whole scene when, it was like Vincent Price, I'm trying to think of the right word, not evolved, but kind of evolved. There's a word I'm looking for. He became his father, and he
Hmm.
had a totally different outfit on. He had the black robes, he had the black hood, and
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
he had the whole, like, mad crazy eyes.
He
And
was trying to look like the executioner. That's what he was going for.
yes, absolutely. And just the whole scene of the pendulum, the swoosh, swoosh, and
Hmm.
the movement and the it coming down, and then the colors changing. It had all of those, hooded figures painted on the wall, and the colors changing to give those different effects of like fire and just basically hell is what I think they were trying to go for,
Hmm.
is that, you are in the pit of hell. And so I really liked that whole scene.
Yeah, I I guess by the time they got to it, I was just so disappointed in the movie
You were
that
just
it was
like,
like there
yeah,
was no redeeming quality for me
yeah,
because it just felt so much like oh, let's just throw this on here. It's an afterthought. Oh, we're gonna end it. There we go.
hmm,
And it was like, are you kidding me? You could have done so much more with this. Because I mean, yes, I understood the switching, the setup with the robed beings on the wall, the from the story that they were watching, the pendulum swing back and forth, but
yeah,
And that's the one thing that I love about Poe's story is it's the drawing out of the pendulum and his the anticipation of what's going to come that made it so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And they just blew that in the movie, in
Yeah.
my opinion. They just blew the whole opportunity to make it so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean,
think the very last part of the scene where they actually shut the door to the dungeon to completely lock it away for the whole time so they can, in that very last scene, and I'm not going to give it away,
no, don't. Yeah, because
that to me was like the whole movie should have been that powerful.
yeah, and it was pure just justice.
Hmm. It was. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the Corman movie goes, it's definitely a 10
Mm-hmm.
as that goes, but it had its moments. And
Yeah.
which, like I said, it's the 60s, so
Oh yeah. It I I will say that I like the post story again better than the movie. But
mhm.
again, separating the two, I like the movie for what it is, but away from Poe's story.
Yeah, you can't judge it based off of Poe's story.
No, you cannot.
Even though they named it Pit and the Pendulum, it's not the Pit and the Pendulum.
Right. And so, like, it's probably not in my top Poe movie, Corman movie, I should say,
No.
at all. But I don't know. I would have to rank all of them in order to put this in the place.
Yeah,
That's Jeannie. That's what we should do at the end of us watching the Poe cycle, the Corman Poe cycle. We need to
yes.
rank them in order of what we liked best to least
I'm down with that.
of the eight.
Works for me.
Okay, we'll have to remember that.
Hmm. Makes sense.
Well, are you ready to give Raven caws and Black Cat hisses?
I'm there.
Would you like to go first?
Sure. So
Okay.
as far as Ravenclaws go, this one I would give it a 4
Okay.
because even though the story is not the Pit and the Pendulum, it is a good story. The
Mm-hmm.
storyline, the idea behind it, it fits very much with that time period, with what you would expect from that time period and what you would expect from Corman. So I would go for 4 Ravenclaws.
Yes.
Now, Black Cat hisses, I'm gonna have to say 3
Okay.
because there was too much of plot holes for things that shouldn't have plot holes. They could
Mm-hmm.
have done so much better making it work and making it make sense, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and just leaving the Pit and the Pendulum till the very end and rushing it was just horrible for me.
Okay.
And I guess the biggest thing overall was the lack of closure. Even though there was closure, but there wasn't closure. I mean, you still are like, what? Because he shows up after he finds out his sister's dead, but then the story goes on, and then even at the very end, even though yes, there's closure, I won't tell people how in
Mm-hmm.
certain ways. In other ways, you're thinking, but why? It doesn't answer a lot of whys for me.
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense. It's like, why did a woman from England ended up married to a Don from Spain?
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of plot holes, and so that's my number 3. So that's
Okay.
why I got 3 Black Cat hisses.
Okay. That makes sense. So I guess for me, I just thought of kind of an analogy to compare this to while you were
Mhm.
talking. And before I say my Ravens, well, yeah, no, I'll go ahead and say my Ravens. I would also give it a 4 of the Raven calls. And
Mhm.
the analogy that I kind of came up with is this movie, and it's kind of, this is a precursor to the movie I'm going to compare it to. It's like Poe's story did not have any connections, like you spoke about. It just had the one character until the very end, and that
Mhm.
the other people coming in was very short-lived, rightfully so, based on Poe's story. And so for Hollywood to make it what it is, I mean, it definitely did not have a happy ending, but to give that intrigue, to give that love interest, to give it a love story, which was very prominent during that time period, you had to do that without, basically stripping a lot of what Poe wrote. And so the movie that it reminds me, not like comparison of apples to apples, but just what they did. It's like the story of the Titanic.
Right.
The movie Titanic from the 90s, they gave it a love story, and it was more about the love story than actual historical element of it. The historical
Exactly.
element of it when it sank was at the very end of the movie. And
Mhm.
so it's like kind of like with the Pit and the Pendulum, if you had read the Post story, you knew what was coming at the very end. And that scene is short lived, just like the Titanic sinking is short lived. And so it's like, but to give it interest, to build it up, to get people to like it, women and men, you had to give it the love story. And so that part I don't like because it's not necessary. Um, I think that this could have been done with the one character, or maybe even have two characters, of an enemy versus, they're both bitter enemies, or even just use the Spanish Inquisition. And I think the psychological part of it, of the taunting of the person that's torturing the other man, it would have been brilliant.
Yeah. If they had done it correctly,
Yeah.
yes.
So, but does that make sense? Does it, with what I'm saying about comparing it to like a Titanic and what they did?
Yeah, because that's like we talked about at the very beginning. They took a short story that was a psychological thriller, in my opinion,
Yeah.
that took place in a very static environment, and they expanded it into a total new story that
Hmm.
it's kind of like what we always discuss with Poe. Poe always either leaves these giant openings at the beginning or the giant openings at the end of the story that he doesn't fill in because he just gives us the meat of the story.
Right. Yeah.
But like you were saying, in Titanic, instead of them talking about the historical of what happened, they made it into this giant love story, and then the actual historical outcome was all condensed in the end. And
Yeah.
that's what this movie did. They created a love story to build it up to try to make the Pit and the Pendulum more than what it was.
Hmm.
But they just, in my opinion, glossed over a lot of the history and a lot of the psychological that they could have done. And yeah, I mean, that was a good analogy because it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Titanic would be a perfect modern day version of the Pit and the Pendulum.
Just with that, the buildup of a love story to the one little historical aspect about it.
Exactly.
And so, just as Jeff always says, anytime I say the Spanish Inquisition, He's like, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition from Monty Python, so we'll say
Mm-hmm.
that. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so that's it. It's like this isn't the Monty Python Inquisition.
That's right. That's right. It's Poe's, and Corman kind of removed that aspect and did his own Pit and Pendulum.
Yeah.
So
Corman hijacked Poe's pit.
yeah, there you go. And not turning it into a barbecue pit either. So
Mm-hmm.
to cook something on a steak.
Yeah.
So now for Black Cat Hisses, believe it or not, I'm going to give it 3 as well. And
Woohoo.
the Raven, I kind of, with the whole analogy of the Titanic part, it really kind of goes more with the Black Cat Hisses. And so just to kind of go back, I did like the storyline. Again, removing it from Poe's story, what they came up with kind of blending some of a few of Poe's different stories together with adding in the romantic factor to it and the demise of Don Nicholas Medina. I did like that part of it because you didn't know who was actually doing the mental torture. This movie was really more about the mental torture than it was the physical torture until the very end. And so I did like that, mysterious aspect of it because it could have been anybody in this whole thing, depending on, because we didn't have all the information going into the film, when how Corman did this. Now, obviously, I've seen it multiple times, so when I rewatched it, I already had known. But then I guess the Black Cat Hisses is the fact that, again, the whole Titanic reference, the it could have been done without all the love stuff. It could have been 2 separate films altogether, and so it just it was it's disappointing, but at the same time, the nostalgia of Vincent Price and how such a good actor he is, I just kind of look at, he is the best part of this film. And other than that, it's one of my least favorite of the Poe films because of that.
Yeah.
Or not because of
I have
Vincent
to
Price, but
agree.
because of not it's the one, I think it's the story that's very far removed from Poe.
Yes. I mean, I do like that they tried, and I emphasize tried. They tried to implore Poe's psychological side of it,
Hmm.
but they failed miserably
Yeah,
because they had so many missed opportunities that just fell flat in the
yeah,
story.
yeah. I
So,
agree. I totally agree.
I mean, it is worth a watch. I wouldn't say it
Oh
would
yeah.
be worth more than one.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. Again,
Mhm.
just go into it and know that you're not going
It's
to
not a
see
Poe.
a whole lot of Poe. Yeah, I did that to
Exactly.
rhyme.
Exactly. Noted a Poe.
Yes. And so I think, Jeannie, next
Hmm.
month on Review Morgue, what's coming?
Premature burial.
Oh, that's right. Yes, which we just read on Poe Unplugged.
Yep. So we get to review the premature burial, which, if it's 1962, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sans Vincent Price.
Yes, this one's got, I can't remember his name.
Ray Milland.
Yeah, Ray Milland
Yes,
instead of Vincent Price, but it's another Corman movie. It's the only Corman Poe movie without Vincent Price.
correct. Yes,
So yes, next month, well, technically this month.
that's correct. Yes. We're a little behind, and that's okay.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in October.
Oh
But
yes,
yes, premature burial, which I have to say is not one of my favorites,
Uh-huh.
but it is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to help us uh, uncover uh, the premature burial. Get it? Uncover. Come
Yes. Oh
on.
my gosh. Yeah, I own the pun. I mean, you always have
Exactly.
to.
Gotta own it. Gotta own it. So stay tuned. And until next time, we are
Or
Poe out.
out.